Hello, Abdelhadi.
Hello, Mr.
Hello, good morning. Fine? Okay.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning, حبيبي. Now let's start. Guest. Hello. Who entered the chat? Who just entered now? Yes. Mute yourself, please. Look here. Just to remember the components of the blood. Is my sound clear for everyone? You can write in the chat box. As you see here, the blood consists of a liquid. This liquid is called plasma. Okay, and some blood cells swim inside it. The first one is red blood cells here, and they are called erythrocytes, and they have hemoglobin, so the color is red. The second one is white blood cells. They are bigger in size than red blood cells, and they have nucleus. The last one is called platelets. They don't have a nucleus, but they are small cellular fragments. Go to the functions. We need to mention the function of each one of them. Red blood cells carry oxygen gas. Finished. White blood cells help in immunity so they can fight diseases and defend the body against some pathogens like microbes, viruses, and others. But platelets play an important role in clotting process that help us from bleeding and stop the invasion or entering of some microorganisms. Okay. Go to another one. Here. We need to remember now the blood vessels. The blood vessels are 5 types. You can remember them easily by showing the colors. But unfortunately, in the exam paper, you don't have a color, just the grayscale colors. So you have to look at the direction of the flowing blood. If the blood is going into here, for example, into, so it's mainly will be an artery. If the blood is going away, so it's a vein. Is it okay? This is a tricky part and will help you answering the whole question. The first one is called artery. Next, artery divide into many arterioles like that one. This one is arteriole. The arteriole will divide into tiny blood capillaries. Okay, let's make another different sharper color like that. That's good. After finishing their job, that I will mention it right now, the capillaries will join into another bigger venule. Venules at last will collect into another bigger blood vessel called vein. Where does the vein go? It will go again to the heart. Okay? Who can mention some examples? Prepare some 2 examples for veins in your body. The first one is pulmonary vein, which is returning back from the lung. and carrying a lot of oxygen gas needed. The second one is vena cava vein that carry deoxygenated blood coming from the blood, superior and inferior vena cava vein, as we will mention right now. After that, the heart will push the blood again into arteries. We have two main arteries. The first one is called aorta artery, that is going from the left ventricle, and the second one is pulmonary artery, which is going out from the right ventricle. And the cycle is repeated. If we go to another point to comparison between the thickness of each one of them, the artery or arteriole has three layers. Also, the venule has three layers, but the blood capillaries has just one cell thick, so it's hardly can allow one. You see here this area, just one red blood cell can move by its diameter. So they are extremely narrow, and this is the function of them. Let's talk about each one of them again. The artery has three layers. The first layer is called a connective tissue. It's the outer one here, the white one, connective tissue. And the middle one is smooth muscles and the smooth muscle layer. The third one is endothelium. Endothelium, something like epithelium. Endothelium. Okay. And as you see here in this figure, that the thick layer of the smooth muscle make the lumen is very narrow. So the lumen of the artery is narrow. Okay. And also it's elastic. Elastic is flexible to change its diameter according to the blood pressure. If the blood pressure is high, this relaxes. This layer is relaxing. And if the pressure is low, it will contract and recoil again. Unlike, let's go to the other type of blood vessels, which is called vein. The same layers here are also found here, but with little thickness. So if you see here, the first one, the outer one, which is connective tissue, is more thin. It's more thin here. So it's connective tissue. Also, the smooth muscle layer or the muscular layer is more thin, as you see. And the inner one is endothelium. They are exactly similar. But another additional part is found here, which is a valve. Don't forget it, valve found in vein, V and V. So you will not forget it again. Is it okay for everyone? So what actually happens here when the artery is divided into arteriole and the arteriole divided into blood capillaries? This is the secret between in this branching and division. Why? Because look here, look at this area. In the thin blood capillaries, and this is surrounded by human cells. Look, this very thin layer of the blood capillaries allow the diffusion. This is a secret. Allow the diffusion of what? Of nutrients and also oxygen gas from inside them to the surrounding cells out. And also the vice versa process. What is the vice versa process? Is the returning back again of the wastes that are produced from body cells to the blood inside the blood capillaries. This process is called exchange of materials and wastes. This process is extremely important because it supplies blood cells with the needed material and or needed oxygen gas for cellular respiration. It's okay. We just remind you with a lot of details. 1 minute. It's okay. This is another system. It's called lymphatic system. Let's make a small or a little summary about its importance. Lymphatic system. Lymphatic system is another circulatory system our circulatory system includes blood system and lymphatic system. Lymph is moving into lymphatic vessels, as you see here. A lot of nodes. Look at this node here. This is called lymph node. In case of infection, the lymph nodes swollen like that. So increase in size. Why? To produce more white blood cells. So you should know that the functions, what are the main functions of the lymphatic system? Number one, fighting diseases because they can produce white blood cells in time of infection, and also it helps in absorption of food. Absorption of food. Why? Because if you remember the vessel here, this is something called villus. We don't need to mention the details about it. We just need to remember that we have a very fine lymphatic vessel found in the middle. It's called lymphatic vessel or lacteal. Okay, forget about it now. Let's move to another point here. This is the circulation between the heart and the two lungs. It's called pulmonary circulation. In this simple diagram, you should understand that the circulation between the circulation between heart and the two lungs is called pulmonary. So anything which is going to the lung or returning from the lung is called pulmonary. Lung, unlike the other body parts, it must be supplied with carbon dioxide. Why? To renew the carbon dioxide gas and replace it with oxygen gas after the process of gas exchange that happens in alveoli. Look, let's start from the chamber of the heart that this this chamber. Who remember the name of that chamber of the heart? It's called right ventricle. Okay, right ventricle will push and contract, will pump the blood to the two lungs here. Look, in this big artery. This artery is called pulmonary. Don't forget, everything that is going to the lung or returning back from the lung is called pulmonary. This pulmonary artery carries carbon dioxide gas, so the type of blood inside it is called deoxygenated. Here, what happens here? What is the process here? It's gas exchange. So the red blood cells and the blood plasma will leave their carbon dioxide gas and loaded with more oxygen new gas, okay, and return back. The returning back sure will not return back to the right ventricle, okay? It will return to another chamber which is called, yes, say, what is this? It's called left atrium. Now we finished the pulmonary circulation. So it's a start from a chamber of the heart called right ventricle and go to the lungs and then return back to another chamber of the heart called left atrium. Finished. This is a simple diagram for the heart. I need all of you to pay me attention. Here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quickly. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, right atrium. Below it, right ventricle. On the other side, left atrium, and below it, left ventricle. You see here, this is septum. It has a role in prevention. So It spreads between the two sides of the heart and do not allow the mixing of the blood between oxygenated blood found on the left side and deoxygenated blood found in the right side. Also, before we go from this slide, we need to remember the main vessels. 1, 2, 3, and 4 is not illustrated, so I have to draw it. This is 4. So let's make another numbers. 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is 5, and this is 6, 7, and they are 8. 5, aorta artery, the biggest and the most important one because it emerges from the left ventricle and deliver the blood to all body parts. So the blood here is going out. Head, neck, chest and arms, abdomen and legs. Anyway, so you should know that the aorta artery carries oxygenated blood and supply it to all body parts needed for cellular respiration and releasing energy. Okay, 5 is finished. 6 is another one. We have just mentioned it in the previous layer, and we said that it's called pulmonary. Both are arteries. Okay, let's return back again to the heart. This one is called superior. Superior means above. And this is called inferior, which means lower. Superior is above or over, above, and inferior is lower. Both carry deoxygenated blood and return blood back from the body parts and going to the right atrium. Vena, cava, veins, superior and inferior. And 8 are 4 pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins. It's okay. Let's hide this again and go to another layer. This one. Just to remember this area. I don't know, I don't want all of you to get confused in this complex or this complicated figure. Just look at this area here and here. This is a small intestine, okay? Small intestine. Small intestine, like any other organs, must be supplied with oxygen gas. It's a branch of pulmonary. It's a branch of aorta artery. This is aorta artery, okay? Here, that one, and it divides as we said. Okay, look at the blood which is carried to the small intestine. It has only oxygen gas here. But after finishing its journey inside the tissues of the small intestine, it carries carbon dioxide gas. But don't forget that the nutrients that is going into the small intestine is low, but the nutrients which emerges from or come away from the small intestine is very rich. Nutrients are carried here. You should know that vessel. This vessel is very important for you. This is the cause why I brought this figure to you. I need all of you to think clearly. Okay, look again. This blood vessel, I will call it A. Who remembers A? And after going into the liver, it will branch to do certain function and will go away from the liver in another blood vessel called B. And also we need to mention C to finish the whole story in front of you. Again, this is a small circulation between the small intestine and the liver. Small intestine will carry the process of absorption, will carry out the process of absorption of food, and all the blood will be accumulated and joined into specific blood vessel called A. A is called hepatic portal vein. It's very rich with nutrients, not rians. glucose, amino acid, and others. So before going to the heart directly here in vena cava vein, it must go to the another organ, to this important organ, which is called liver. Okay, liver will make an important rule, two important processes. Number one, it will store glucose into glycogen. Okay, so liver will store the first function. It will store glucose and put it inside another category of polysaccharide called glycogen. Finished. Another point, it will make a very important role in the process of execretion. Please don't forget it. Execretion process. How? Because it will make a process called deamination. Deamination. What's meant by deamination? The breaking down of extra amino acids to keep a part of them and release another part. The process of deamination will release a toxic material called ammonia. Ammonia is moving into the blood and returning again to the liver. Ammonia will be changed into the liver again into urea. Urea is released into the blood to go to the kidney. Kidney will remove urea from the blood in the process of excretion. It's okay. So let's return to the name again. A is called hepatic portal vein, more glucose, more amino acids. But B, after the process of storage and removing extra amino acid, will called, look, it will be called hepatic vein. Less nutrients. I mean less glucose. And then it goes to the or join the vena cava vein. Sure, it's inferior. It's okay. Let's go to another one here. Kidney. Urinary system, you should remember in our session today, the urinary system includes two kidneys, two ureters, and one urinary bladder and one urethra. Again, two kidneys, two ureters, one urinary bladder, and one urethra. Quickly, what are the difference between them, or what are the functions? Two kidneys, they filter the blood. Two ureters, they only transfer urine from the kidney to the bladder. The bladder just store urine until the process of urination. And urethra, it releases urine outside of the body. Okay. By the way, we should mention now that the muscles that push the urine into the ureter is smooth muscles, and also the muscles that allow the urinary bladder to expand, and after that to contract to push the urine outside are also a type of smooth. Also, the urethra is lined with smooth muscles. It's okay. Now move to another layer. Here, it's one from the most important figures. Each kidney has three layers. The first one, the outer one, is called cortex, and the middle one is medulla, and the innermost one is pelvis. Again, the outer one is cortex, the middle one, which has a pyramid-shaped structure, is called medulla, and the inner one is pelvis. Don't forget that this organ, which is called kidney, must be supplied with blood, and also the blood will go outside from it. The blood is carried into the kidney through renal artery, and the blood goes away from the kidney through renal vein. To make a quick comparison between renal artery blood and renal vein blood, we make a simple table: renal artery and here renal vein. Renal artery has more wastes. Renal vein has less wastes. Renal artery has more oxygen gas. Renal vein has less oxygen gas. It's okay. When you look at the functional unit of the nephron, you should know that its name is nephron. Each kidney has about 1 million tiny tubules. Each one is called nephron. Nephron starts with a cup-shaped capsule called Bowman's capsule here. Bowman's capsule. Inside it, forget the glomerulus now. Let's talk about the components, the basic components of the nephron. Nephron starts with a cup-shaped capsule called Bowman's capsule. Okay, and then it has a near convoluted tube or called proximal convoluted tubule. And then it goes downwards inside the second layer, which is called medulla, and then returns, makes a U-turn and goes above the cortex, into the cortex, and to make another tubule called distal convoluted tubule. So the first one is called PCT. The far one is called DCT. You can write them like that in the exam. After that, each DCT or distal convoluted tube will put its excretory material into a collecting duct. Now we have finished our structure of the basic structures of the nephron. So the nephron consists of 5 parts. Number 1, cup-shaped capsule called Bowman's. The second one is proximal distillated tubule. The next one is Henle loop. The next one is distal convoluted tube. And after that, it's a collecting duct here. But we have another participation by another system, which is called circulatory system. It will make ionian here. So this is afferent and this is efferent. Afferent, if you remember, it's the blood that carries a lot of wastes and a lot of glucose, amino acids, urea, salts, a lot of water, and others. It goes here into the tiny branches. They are called glomerulus, and the many are called glomeruli. So, in fact, glomerulus is not related to the basic structure of the nephron itself. It's a part of the circulatory system. Well, here what's happened? In nephron, we need to mention only 2 processes. The first process is called filtration. And the second process is called absorption or reabsorption. Again, filtration happens in Bowman's capsule. Reabsorption happens in Henle loop. Don't mix, please. Again, we have 2 main processes that happen in each nephron. The first one is called filtration, and the second one is called reabsorption. You should have the ability to describe each one and mention its place accurately. Please don't mix. Filtration. What happens in filtration? Well, in filtration process that happens in Bowman's capsule, the blood loses most of its components, good and bad. All of the blood components, all of the plasma components like water, glucose, vitamins, salts, urea, can move from inside the glomerulus to the Bowman's capsule, except blood cells and proteins. The question is why? Because they have large cells, large size. So they will not be pushed inside the Bowman's capsule, but they will return again in their original pathway. Blood. Okay. Go here inside the near tubule or proximal convoluted tubule and Henle loop. The opposite process is called reabsorption. What happens in reabsorption? The plasma regains, restore the important ingredients or the important structures or components of the plasma, like what? Like water, salts, according to the blood needs, and also glucose, and also vitamins, and leaving the urea in their journey here. Urea continues in their pathway from the near convoluted tubule to the Henle loop and then to the distal convoluted tube, joining into collecting duct. Many collecting ducts are here to join the pelvis. Once the liquid or the filtrate goes to the loop of collecting duct or the collecting duct canal or the collecting duct, it cannot be returned again. It's very hard to retain any material that escaped to the collecting duct. Okay. A very important structure. Coming in the exams 100%. It's found in the revision sheet. Let's remember again the structure of it. A, and here is B. The tiny branches, C. Where is D? Yes, D. E, F, and this is G, and this is H. Let's change color and start writing the components or the labels. A is afferent. Afferent. People who don't need to write afferent can say renal artery or arteriole. Okay. The opposite of it is D. D here, it's efferent, or you can say that the opposite of arteriole is venule, or you can say vein. Okay, let's go here. A, finished. B is Bowman's capsule, and C are the glomeruli, or glomerulus, as you wish. Both are equal. E is proximal convoluted tubule. You can say near tubule. Proximal means near. After finishing E, go to F. It's a distal convoluted tubule or far convoluted tubule. G, where is G here? It's the linkage between E and F. It's called Henle loop. The last one is a collecting duct. 100% important. Go to the respiratory system, and we mentioned the most important points in it. Respiratory system includes many organs like nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, two bronchi, bronchioles, and alveoli, two lungs, and diaphragm. Okay, don't forget that the two lungs are protected by the ribs or rib cage or thoracic cage. Between the thoracic cage or the bones of the rib cage, we have two types of muscles. The first one is outer and called external. The other one is internal. There is a link between the diaphragm and external. How? If the diaphragm contracts, look here, please. If the diaphragm contracts, it moves down. Contract. Look here in this figure. The diaphragm, when the diaphragm contracts, the external intercostal muscles also contracts. This is the linkage that I mean. Again, look at the other figure. If the diaphragm relax and moves up, also the external intercostal muscles will relax. Now you concluded that the internal intercostal muscles are opposite. Why? Again, start from the beginning again. When the diaphragm contracts, it moves down, and the external intercostal muscles also contract, while the internal intercostal muscles are relaxing. Opposite here in exhalation. When the diaphragm here relax, the external intercostal muscles here also will relax, but the internal intercostal muscles will contract. Okay? This is a difference. I will mention it later here. What happens in alveoli and where are the alveoli? You know, for every organ, there is a functional unit. Let's remember them again. The organ of the lung has a functional units. They are called alveoli. The organ of kidney has another functional unit called nephrons. The organ, for example, of a small intestine have functional unit called villi. It's not included in our material. What else? The organ of muscles or the tissue of muscles have sarcomeres. Okay, here is another process of gas exchange that happens inside alveoli, and it takes place between the air inside the alveoli and the blood in blood capillaries surrounding alveoli. For example, look here. The blood is coming and the blood is going. Blood is coming, so it's a branch of pulmonary artery. Well, pulmonary artery carries carbon dioxide gas, and you should know that it's a route coming from the heart in right ventricle. Okay, here. A lot of carbon dioxide gas will diffuse from the plasma into the air of alveoli and goes outside in exhalation process. In next breath, we have a new fresh air in the process of inhalation. And inhalation have a lot of oxygen gas, which also diffuse in the other direction, opposite direction, from the air inside alveoli into the blood, in blood capillaries surrounding alveoli, and returning back to the heart through four pulmonary veins that carries blood to the left atrium. This is the process of alveolar or air alveoli exchange. Okay. Smoking is related to many diseases that can affect and destroy bit by bit our respiratory system. Okay, inside the cigarette, we have three main chemicals. The first one is called nicotine, and the second one is called carbon monoxide. The third one is called tar. You should mention an effect of each one of them. Nicotine has a good effect and a bad effect. The good effect of nicotine, it's an alerting process. It makes you alert for 20 or 15 minutes. Okay, and also it causes relaxation of the nerves. It has an effect of relaxation. It can cause relaxation of our nervous system. But the bad effect of nicotine that it's an addictive and also increases blood pressure, also increases heartbeat. Okay, go to the next one. Carbon monoxide. It is more worse than carbon dioxide. Why? Because carbon monoxide can prevent hemoglobin from oxygen gas. Why? Carbon monoxide needs to combine with more oxygen gas in inhalation. When the cigarette is incompletely burned, it produces large quantities of carbon monoxide gas that can block oxygen gas from reacting with hemoglobin, and it leads to the shortage of oxygen gas carried to the organs of the body and especially the brain. It causes dizziness. Tar, uh, it's a substance that have more than 60 substances known to be carcinogenic. It causes cancer. Okay, go to another here. There are many questions. Number one, give reason here. Nose breathing is preferable than mouth inhalation or mouth breathing. I need 3 points in the answer. Number one, as the nose has tiny hairs, has also mucus, and also has blood capillaries. Okay, so you should mention why every one of them is important. Tiny hair just to filter air from uh, bacteria or tiny pathogens or dust. Okay, mucus, it moistens air before inhalation. Blood capillaries is opposite. It warms air before inhalation, especially in cold weather. Okay, number two, human trachea is equipped with cilia. This is a key word, cilia. So the question is direct. What is the importance of cilia that line our trachea? Cilia will trap dust because they move involuntarily from down to up to eject any foreign bodies upward, and this can keep your inhaled air clean. Again, cilia will trap the dust and helps to eject it up the trachea, and this will keep your air clean. Inhaled air is clean. Third question, your liver is a part of excretory system. We mentioned it when we said that the liver, it will make a process called deamination. What happens in deamination? Excess amino acids are broken down to release urea, ammonia first, and then urea, which is excreted outside the body with urine. Here is a difficult question. Smokers cough a lot. Why do the smokers have a special cough? The, the secret is in tobacco. Tobacco has, after burning, it changes into smoke. This smoke will paralyze. It will paralyze means stop the action, stop the movement of cilia. Cilia here. This is another cell called ciliated. This is another cell, ciliated. They move in wavy motion from down to up, from down to up. The tobacco will stop the movement of cilia. Well, so what happens as a result of that? As a result of stopping the movement of cilia that line the trachea, the inhaled particles will stick to the wall of the respiratory tract or may enter inside the lung. And don't forget, please, that we have another cell here called goblet cells that produces mucus. So this is another component of the cough. Again, the problem started when the tobacco stopped the movement of the cilia. This is a mark, just one mark. When you mention that the tobacco smoke will stop the action or will paralyze the cilia that line the trachea, this is a mark. This is one fact. Another point, don't forget that we have another cells that secrete mucus. The mucus with the smoke will produce a smoke-laden mucus will be trapped along the airways. This will irritate all the cells of the trachea. So irritation from all of that will trigger means activate or stimulate a cough, as the smoker tries to clear the airways. So we mentioned it and we divided it into three parts. The first one, when the tobacco smoke will paralyze the cilia, and then a strange material is called smoke-laden mucus will be trapped, and then when an irritation happens causing the cough. Here, two opposite questions. Please pay me attention. Number one, hypotension. Another one, hypertension. This is hypertension. Again, hypo means low. Hyper means high. Look, hypotension means low blood pressure. It has a bad effect on the kidney. Why? Look, the question says hypotension may cause renal failure because low blood pressure or hypotension leads to decrease in filtered blood by the kidney. So the process of filtration that happens in Bowman's capsule will not be 100% true. It will not happen 100. It will not happen healthier. Okay, it's very bad. Why? Because not all of the substances that the body need to get rid of them will pass from the glomerulus to the Bowman's capsule. So they will stay in your blood. This is called renal failure. Renal failure. So the kidney has a moderate, needs a suitable blood pressure to make the process of filtration happens in the Bowman's capsule. So the low blood pressure will lead to a decrease in filtered blood by the kidney. And you can express it in many ways. You can say that the blood will have a lot of wastes. The blood will not remove its waste products. The blood will not be cleared or cleansed. If this process persists or stays for a long time, it will cause a kidney injury or kidney failure. Okay. Another opposite process called hypertension. If the blood pressure, you should remember that we have two values for the blood pressure. The first one is called systole and the other one is called diastole. Systole, it's a value of blood pressure when the two ventricles contract. Diastole is the value of blood pressure when the two ventricles relax. This is the highest value. This is the lowest value. Okay, if the blood value pressure, okay, more than 120 or may reach to 160, 200, it will cause another bad damage to the kidney. How? This is a question. Hypertension will weaken the blood vessels in the kidney, will destroy them. And this decreases their ability to reabsorb proteins. Okay? Proteins, mainly proteins, have big size, so they are not allowed to be filtered inside Bowman's capsule. But the presence of high blood pressure will cause the escape of a lot of proteins that have small sized proteins, medium sized proteins, and even the large sized proteins can escape from our glomeruli into Bowman's capsule. And so this will cause the appearance of proteins in urine. So this is another type of kidney damage. Okay, you should know and understand now that there is a bad relation between the low blood pressure, hypotension, and also high blood pressure, hypertension. The low blood pressure will not make the kidney work properly, and so it will cause the staying and the existence of a lot of wastes inside our blood, causing toxication. You can mention toxicity or toxication or poisoning cases, and the human need to go to the hospital or the kidney centers to make a kidney, to use a kidney machine. And another process that happened to the kidney, and this is another dangerous case that may cause a bad effect to the kidney, which is called what? High blood pressure. It's hypertension. Hypertension can weaken the blood vessels in the kidney, and this will decrease their ability to reabsorb proteins that make them flows into the urine. Question 7. Some desert mammals have a very long loops of Henle to help reabsorb needed water again. Okay, we have finished, and we have came to the end of our session today. Any questions before we go? Any questions? Anything is written in the chat box. Thank you. Any questions? Here, Abdullah. Any questions, Shabab? Have a nice day. Thank you for attendance. Welcome, Rokan. Thank you.